Grab your cup of coffee. Sit down for a story. Let's all go exploring. Making it after 40. Making it after 40. Making it after 40.
Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Making It After 40. I am your host, Lisa Rodriguez. I am an actor and writer who is still trying to make it after the age of 40. On this show, we explore what it means to be an artist trying to make it as a middle-aged person. Today on the show, I chat with Marilyn Busch. Marilyn is a third act actor because her acting career is technically her third career. Marilyn has had a really interesting life that has led up to where she is now, which is booking work left and right. She shares the ways in which she had to learn to get out of her own way and the ways she's been able to use her skills from her previous career as a marketing manager to amplify the success she's had thus far. Thank you to everyone who is tuning in each week, and welcome to my new listeners. Stick around because I have so many interesting guests lined up for you in the coming weeks. And with that, enjoy the show. So Marilyn, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's so nice to meet you.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I've been following you on Instagram for a while now. I think I first saw you during Self-Tape May, like in 2020, or maybe it was 2021, but I think it was 2020 because that was the first year I did it. And I was like, oh, who's she?
I think that's the first year I did it too. I think the year before I was too intimidated to even show anyone what I was doing with my self-tapes because I wasn't secure, you know? So I was like, oh my God, all these people are so good. So then the next year I was determined to do it. And it was fun. It was really fun to do.
It was really fun. And I think because so many actors were at home, the pandemic was still so new and we were all like trying to figure out what it was. Yeah. And I was still like kind of in a baby acting stage. I'd done like maybe like 2 self-tapes. So my self-tapes in 2020 were terrible.
Oh my God. I actually went back. This is when I actually felt like, oh, I have made progress. Because I went back to my absolute first self-tape. And not only did I slate in the most awkward way possible, like, hello, I'm Marilyn Busch. Like, I don't know what I was doing. I was hosting some sort of game show. And then the tape is in front of, like, the lighting is bad, the sound is bad, the brightest blue backdrop ever, and I was wearing blue, so it was the smartest thing ever. I was just a floating head in my first self-tape, and it was terrible. And then I thought, oh, well, I have come a long way.
It is.
I have improved.
Even if it, like, feels awful and painful to see, it's nice to see the progress.
Right. And I actually... COVID has been horrible in so many ways, but the way it's been great for our industry is that you have that ability to go, oh, I just tanked that take. I'll just delete it. Do it again, which you don't get a chance to do when you're in the room in person. Like if you tank it, you tanked it. That's it.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Yeah.
This time you can go, well, that doesn't exist anymore. I'm just going to do this until I get it right.
Yeah.
Which is a luxury. It really is.
It really is a luxury. Yeah. And then I love that we can like see actors in all different markets. Now you're based in New England, right?
I am. I work here. I have a place in New York. I actually am here in Rhode Island, which is awesome during the summer with the beaches. Not so awesome in the winter. It's I can't wait to move to LA. That's like my
is that
dream.
The goal?
Yeah, but I have 3 children that are 11, 13, and 15, so I'm not going anywhere anytime soon.
Wow.
And
you
they're
just
all boys.
did that every 2 years. Bam, 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 huh?
Doesn't
So
it
you
seem
had-
like we planned it? Because we did not.
I have a friend who had that kind of situation too, where they had one and they're like, oh, well, you know, like maybe we'll have another. And they had planned to end it there, even had the appointment for her husband to get a vasectomy, and surprise!
We actually planned our third. Our last one
Okay.
was planned. First two, not really so much. But I was also, that, what do they call it when you're a mature mother? It sounds
A
terrible.
geriatric.
Yes.
It's like the geriatric pregnancy. Yeah.
Yes. Which is just so pleasant to hear the first time when you're in your 40s and you're like, I'm sorry, what? You know, I wasn't in my 40s yet. I was just on the cusp. But over 35, technically you are geriatric. Right.
Yeah, you only have to be 35 to be considered a geriatric pregnancy.
But only in pregnancies does the word geriatric come in at 35.
Yeah. Well, I had
insane.
my second child at 39, so.
Oh, good for you. See, geriatric.
Yeah,
and
my first child I had at 30, and then I waited 9.5 years and had a second one. So
if I had a little more space, breathing room in between the boys, I think it might be good. But I'm thrilled to be a mom. Never, ever thought I would be. But this is kind of how my entire life has gone. Every time I make a plan, life steps in and just goes, oh, no, you're not going that way. We're going to completely make a right-hand turn and go this way. So that's the way my whole life has been.
Let's hear a little bit about your journey. I know that you're an actor, I know that you're a voice artist, but how did you get to here where you're building a career as a middle-aged person?
I know. And I like that you said middle-aged without putting a number on it, because I like that. Because especially in our field, you can be whatever your physical age is, but it's all about how you look. And I've always looked like I was in my 40s, even when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
When I was in college for theater, I always played the mothers and the grandmothers. I rarely played the wives, never played the love interest. Always was in I was someone's mother who was my age, always. Yeah. So I've always been playing up, and now I'm finally aging into my type, which is nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
It's amazing that I find myself where I am in my career now. I'm incredibly lucky, but as I track it back, it's the most convoluted route I think anyone has ever taken. It's my third career, and I started doing theater when I was in high school, loved it. Went to college, but I was thinking I was going to be an English teacher, secondary ed, and teach in high school because there wasn't a lot of career counseling in my high school. And I just was like, well, I always got A's in English. I guess I should work in that field somehow. It was not well thought out. So I went to college for that, hated it. Majored in keg tapping and bong making in college, which was not good. Just not good. And then I transferred and got serious because this time I was footing the bill as opposed to my parents. So then I kind of, grew up and majored in theater, loved it, absolutely loved it. Loved being on stage, just couldn't get enough of it. Graduated, and then because I was engaged to be married to another, here's where it gets convoluted. I was engaged to another actor in the program, and we were debating, when we graduate, and this is the early 90s, are we going to go to Chicago? Or are we going to go to LA? That was the choices.
Yeah.
And he was very gung-ho for Chicago. As I've gotten older, realized I'm very much a provincial kind of girl where I'm like, oh, that's a big city. Ooh, And it was a really scary prospect. And the thought of, well, we'd go together, that's safer and more secure and probably more comfortable. Not that it should be comfortable to move to Chicago to pursue theater. So again, life stepped in, and I met someone else while I was on a tour and broke off that engagement. And this someone else became my first husband. And his name was Steve, and he was a musician and a writer and a newspaperman. And he had this whole alt newspaper for music and Providence, and thoroughly had a wonderful life together. And then he passed away at 45. And all of a sudden, I'm a very young widow.
Yeah.
I had been working, what I had done, I had been working as a children's touring edutainer, let's say,
Okay.
education, entertainment. And we did
Yeah.
these plays about understanding racial diversity and conflict resolution. And it was a blast. And I did that for 9 years. And so I got to the point where Steve got sick. And thank God the theater I worked for was so understanding and generous,
Yeah.
because he passed away and they said, well, we're here for you and you can keep working if you want. So I did that for a while. And then finally, I had been sending out their press releases for them because no one else could go to it was like, who wants to
Yeah.
send these to the post office?
Yeah.
So that turned into me becoming their PR person.
Oh, wow.
Just a little leap.
Yeah.
So I was doing their PR for them, learning as I went. So I think I took a learning connection class, those one night adult education classes
Yeah.
from a woman who had written a press release, and her news item got on the cover of Wall Street Journal. So that's where I had my PR training. Was that one
was
night
a woman who wrote one
with that woman, right? That I paid like $30. So that's my PR and communications background in a nutshell. So Steve passed away really suddenly, and I was kind of in limbo. So I continued to do their PR for them at this theater. And then I got a job offer for the only LORT Regional Equity Theater in town to come and do their PR because they had heard about me. And I was like, that's great. And side note, this is the best part. I went for the interview for this job, and the woman said, before we start, I just want to let you know, you have a great recommendation for this job. And she said, I interviewed your husband for this job like a couple of years ago. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
and he had passed away suddenly. And I was just like, what? He never told me that. And she said, she said that we had a very nice meeting, but at the end of it, he said, oh yeah, you don't want me. You want my wife. They ended up hiring somebody else. And then years later, here I am interviewing for this job. And of course, I started the whole interview in tears because that's to hear that it was like, oh, he set me up with a job before he left,
That is so beautiful.
It was really moving. And then I took that job and I worked, it's Trinity Rep in Providence. So I was there for 10 years and I worked my way up to running the marketing and PR departments, which is hilarious because I've told you my training in PR that one night.
You're just a natural.
Marketing training was on the go, learning from people. And I flew by the seat of my pants for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
But then I realized that I wasn't sleeping because I was worried about sales goals and subscriber numbers and how do we churn and things that I never thought I would be worried about. When you have a sales goal that's millions and millions of dollars, and if a show doesn't do well, the board looks at you and says, why didn't it do well? It must be the marketing.
Yeah.
So, and that happens a lot. There's a lot of turnover in a lot of theaters, a lot of nonprofits, because it's so much easier to blame the marketing department than any other factors.
The actors, yeah.
Right. Or the
director.
Or just the fact that the whole subscriber model is maybe, outdated. But that's for another podcast.
Yeah.
So I left that. Oh, I skipped a whole chunk. Oh, my God.
Oh.
So about, I would say 3/4 of a year after my first husband died, I met my current husband, which sounds fast, but this is how my life has always been. It's always a quick right turn and then accept where I'm going. When I realized, oh, my gosh, I'm a widow, I thought, well, I'm not going to be like the black wool-wearing widows that only wear black for the rest of their life. Yeah. I'm going to be the Hello Kitty widow, and I'm going to just go on with my life and keep creating and keep working and be open to what can happen, which is not easy, but that's what I did. And I was open to meeting people. My mother made me promise if I was invited anywhere that I had to say yes. So I promised her that.
That's a really good rule.
So some friends of mine, I was complaining that my first husband's music career was never documented because he was a bar musician. And I
Uh-huh.
said, I have all these cassette tapes. I should probably transfer to digital. And some friends said, oh, we know this really great mastering engineer at Brown. You should give them to him. Well, fast forward, he's my husband. He ended
See,
up
again, he
falling,
set you up with,
right? I'm
he was
serious.
setting you up for a happy life after he was gone.
Absolutely, absolutely 100%. And I believe that. So,
Mm-hmm.
and his name is David, and David and I have, as I said, 3 children. So I was working, oh God, like 60 hours a week or whatever, days, nights, evenings,
Yeah.
events. And I had 2 new babies,
Yeah.
So, and then the third one came along and I kept thinking, this is just too much. I'm not home enough. And thank God my husband was open to caring for them, and because neither of us wanted to do daycare.
Yeah.
So I left the job at the theater and I thought, well, wouldn't this be great if now I can finally do theater again and act, because that's what my
Yeah.
degree was in. So I kind of started looking at theater and realized it doesn't pay as much as film and television
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. No, no, it really doesn't.
No, it's kind of criminal. What you make
Yeah.
in a week in the theater, you make in a day on a SAG shoot. And
Yeah.
that's criminal. But so I had been auditioning somewhat while I was working the day job, but it's impossible to just leave your job and drive to New York or drive to Boston for an
Yeah.
audition. No
Yeah.
one likes to hear that.
No.
So now that I had this time, I said yes to every audition. And this was 2014.
Okay.
So I was going up to Boston and New York for auditions. I was not SAG. I didn't have any. I had 1 credit.
Okay.
And then I got cast. All my credits, it was great. They were all speaking parts right out of the gate, which is fantastic.
That
and
is. Yeah.
doesn't happen often.
Mm-mm.
So I had to get my SAG card. I got it pretty quickly, so I'm lucky that way. And then I just spent the next, well, it's been 8 years. It took me 3 years to figure out the business.
Uh-huh.
I know that sounds slow, but
No.
it's a mystery. And there's
It's
not a
not
lot of
slow at all. It's
but
not
there's
slow
not a
at
lot of
all.
people that will teach you how to do it without charging you money.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always some email saying, I have the secret to getting
Yes.
booked, or I have the secret to getting representation.
Yeah.
Well, I was determined not to pay for casting director classes
Okay.
and figure it out. And and I did. And now, fast forward to today, my side business is consulting. All of those years doing marketing and PR
Yeah.
completely applies to us marketing ourselves as actors.
Absolutely.
So I help actors. So now I have this business called Actor Buzz, and I just help people market themselves. I help them figure out their headshots and their materials, and I build websites, you name it.
Yeah.
For me, it's so much easier to help other actors
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
actually look at my own career. Because I was in denial still that I had headshots that were like curly hair with like a wind machine, like very Beyonce, very sexy, attractive. And I wasn't booking. So strange.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get those parts. That's
Yeah.
that's not who I am. So then I started, just looking like a mom with some lipstick and a mascara, and that's it. And that's the look. And
Yeah.
those are the headshots now that I have, where I've just stripped down, because that's the roles I'm booking. A
Yeah.
lot of, fishwives, which was one of the roles, the role I played in Coda, which won the
Yes.
Oscar.
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah. I know. That's so awesome. Well, what's funny is the director is in my mom's group.
Oh
So
my
I don't know her
God.
personally. It's just like it's a bunch of moms. There's one mom that kind of knows everybody in town. Leonora, mentioned again. We talk about her all the time. She knows so many people, and so she's invited all these moms to be in this group, and she was in the moms group. So when she won the Oscar, we were just cheering, and every step of the way she would like release her film. We're like, oh, we're gonna watch it. And we're like, that was
Yep.
so good, and then cheering her on, and then to the pinnacle, which was winning the Oscar. We were all like, yes.
So
on
proud
the
of
group. It
her.
was so cool.
Yeah, Sean Hader. She's
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant director. And her set was so female centric. The set,
Yeah.
the DP, most of the people she had on her team, there was a lot of female voices, which is so
Yeah.
not often do you see that. It's, so that was great. And she's a great director, but she's also really intuitive and she's an excellent communicator. So I
Yeah.
felt like, yeah, she knows exactly what she's doing. She wrote this script. She knows it inside and out. Just trust her. So,
And even just the way that she made sure that the set was handled for the deaf actors. It was so
so good.
important and
Yep.
so inclusive. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but I think
it
in
was.
that regard, it's so important. I took American Sign Language in college. We'd go to the hangs and like try to talk to everybody, and it took me a long time. It was really hard to pick it up because the friends who were actually deaf and have been signing for their whole lives, I'd ask them like again, I don't know. Yeah,
Right.
it's a really cool language, but it's hard to just like
It
pick
is.
up like that. And anyway,
I know.
I think it's really cool that that community has gotten a lot of attention because they deserve
It's
it.
fantastic. And just the fact that, you're just not seeing representation like that. Until that film came along, you're not seeing the three deaf actors. I mean, I think there was some talk about, some producer somewhere was saying, oh, well, we'll get this actor who's not deaf to play this character. And I think she fought for representation because it's necessary, especially with the script. And being on set, there were so many interpreters, and of course there were, but it was a surprise to me because I've only known ASL interpreters for the theater. I would bring them in for different shows, and I knew them. And I had done way back in the day, the children's tour I did, we would do at Rhode Island School of the Deaf, and they were one of the most fantastic audiences. But on set for Coda, there was, not only was there the script supervisor in the corner, but there was the ASL script supervisor who was also watching. So there's the person watching, the words being spoken. Then there's the person watching the signs to make sure that's consistent and that is on the same par, communicating the same thing as the lines. And then Marley Matlin had her, I can't remember his name, but anytime she gives an interview, he's her interpreter.
Yeah.
So she had one interpreter that was interpreting her words, and then someone else that was interpreting the direction Sean was giving her. So she had someone that was always translating for Sean or the DP or costumes or whomever.
Yeah.
So of course, you need that kind of a team. But it was a great experience. I honestly, it seemed like such a nice little sweet movie. I never expected it to become huge.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it was a nice family story, sweet tearjerker ending. I was like, this is lovely. But I don't think this is going to be an international blockbuster.
Yeah.
Who would have, And then the opening the Sundance Festival, I was like, oh, this is cool. And I finally I was online because it was COVID, but I got to, attend, quote unquote, air quotes, my first Sundance. And then as it started picking up awards, it was like, oh, maybe this does have legs, in a larger scale. By the time it won Best Picture, and it won the ensemble cast award for SAG Awards, which they send you an award. They send you like a official looking document, it looks like a degree kind of. I actually have a SAG award now, which is very exciting.
Cool. Oh my god.
Because I was like, because at first my friends were like, oh, you have a SAG award. It's like, no, I don't. I'm like number 14, 15 on the cast list. That I'm not included in the the best ensemble. But according to SAG, we all got our document in the mail saying we had won, and I thought, well, that's the coolest ever. And then we won. Then it won the Oscar, which was obviously the coolest ever.
But that's
Yeah,
such
and
a
I
neat
mean,
little gift, just
it
being a part of
really
that
was.
ensemble and yeah, getting to have that award as well.
It was. And it was, for me, it was just yet another, because in the Boston market, I have a tendency to get booked as, the girls that talk like this,
Yeah.
or not very, Southies, a little,
Yeah.
this woman was a fishwife, and we were making jokes about, can I say fish dicks?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Which Marley made up a sign for it, which was
Oh,
kind
she
of
did.
like, I'll show you, but that doesn't
Yeah, yeah.
work on radio,
Yeah,
right? It was like a little flipper below a fish sign, and the little flipper was the
yeah.
fish
So,
dick.
so Marilyn is holding out her hand, and her middle finger is pointing downward towards the floor, and like shaking your middle finger. So now you guys all know how to sign fish sticks. If you see Marilyn out in the real world, just do that for her.
But yeah, I'm the one with crass jokes in the film, in the Oscar
Yeah.
winning
Yeah. No,
film.
that is so cool. Yeah.
But after that, it didn't take too long. I auditioned a lot, got some good roles. I've been building my resume in the past year or so. It's really picked up, which, considering it's happening, I worked all through COVID.
Yeah.
I took advantage. I mean, we followed all of the guidelines, and everybody was masked the entire time, and you tested every 3 days, and it got to be routine. But I've been working straight through. As much
Yeah.
as anytime anybody cast me, it was not. I feel safer on a SAG set during COVID than I did going to the grocery store,
Yeah.
because I knew the people around me had just been tested that morning
Yeah.
and they were clear. Whereas I go to my local grocery store and people are walking around, with masks on their chin. But yeah, right now I'm still in the co-star world for television. I was lucky enough to be cast in a couple Apple TV stuff and some Netflix movies that are coming out soon. And
great.
New Amsterdam, that was a highlight. I was very excited.
I saw that on your reel. That was a funny.
So excited.
Yeah.
And that was a big one for me, just because nothing beats getting cast on a show you love.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. Like, I have my eyes set on any of the fantastic Law and Order franchises. I've
Yeah.
been putting that out into the universe for quite some time. That's my next goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I started, thanks to my fantastic husband, because like I said, 3 kids, all in school, or during COVID, home at school.
Yes.
I was going off and doing shoots in New Jersey and Virginia and New York and Connecticut, and my husband held down the fort for me, which is amazing, and I'm really lucky, because he took care of all of that while I went off and pursued this career. But it's good.
That's so cool. That's really neat. I think that makes a big difference when you have all that support
I'm fortunate.
from your
really am.
partner, from your husband. That's really a big deal.
He
And
understands.
I like what you said, because I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat where I'm aging into my casting. Whereas when I was in my 20s, I didn't really have a great category. And especially as the early 2000s, everything was fake boobs and, blonde hair. And I'm not
blonde.
that.
Right. That was the time where everything was blonde, and I was blonde. And sometimes, mostly in the world of dinner theater, there I was a love interest.
Yeah.
Or a walking sight gag. I would be dressed in very tight clothes with very big hair and nails and the whole shebang. And that's where I was that type of like sexy, vampy character.
Yeah.
But fast forward to when you're 30 or so, that character is not, no. That's not where I was.
There's a difference between like real world hot versus TV hot. Like, I'm real world hot and attractive. I'll give myself that credit. But TV hot, no, I'm not. I'm not TV hot.
I was theater hot. I was theater so that there's the 12 feet proscenium between the audience and you. The farther away they were, the hotter I was. And dinner theater, you're playing to crowds in their 80s. So seriously, I was dinner theater hot, because they're all 80, 85. They're very far away and they can't see you. And they're just like, blonde, pretty, But then in film, I'm not. So Yeah, but you have to kind of realize who you are and see yourself
Yeah.
without
Mm-hmm.
any vanity, I think. And that's where I
Yeah.
am now. I'm actually going to film a horror comedy, and I'm playing.
That's
I
awesome.
literally, this is going to be one of those roles again where there's either the ones where I wear no makeup whatsoever and they don't
Uh-huh.
even brush your hair. This is going to be one of those. And then there's the roles where you're like, "Ooh, I get to wear nice clothes." I did a
Cool.
I did a movie for Netflix. It was a small part, but the woman was very upscale. So I had
Yeah.
this fantastic outfit, face full of makeup. She did my hair. I said, "I never get to do this. I'm always like, you look good the way you walked in."
Yeah.
But I'm excited to go because it's this is my second horror movie. Not that I ever
Yeah.
sought out horror movies,
Uh-huh.
but this one is a horror comedy, which it's the perfect thing for me. But I did
I
the
think that sounds awesome.
I
I would be so into doing a horror
it's
comedy.
so
Those are the
bloody
best.
gross. I'm so excited.
Yes.
At one
Oh, that's
point,
so fun.
it's not a spoiler because it doesn't happen. But at one point in the script, I was supposed to get it says she gets her head blown off. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
yes,
Yeah.
finally, something really gross. And then they decided to do that to another character and I survive. And I was like, damn it. I wanted to see the gross stuff.
Yeah.
But I
Oh,
just
that's funny.
finished last fall. I did Salem's Lot, which has been
Oh,
delayed.
yeah.
But that remake was fun to do. That was my first special effects shoot with,
That is
let's
so
just say,
cool.
anyone who got turned into a vampire. There were teeth and contacts, and
Yeah.
it was so cool. So
That's
yeah.
that's kind of one of my dream roles. I want to be a vampire so bad.
Oh,
I think I'd be a great vampire. I naturally
serious?
have pointy teeth. So-
That's awesome.
and I've
Yeah,
got my eyes are green, so like the dark hair, the green eyes. Just put
perfect.
some pointy teeth on me, you
Yeah.
know.
You don't need the contacts. You really don't need the
Yeah.
fangs. And the fangs are so cool. They make them like, what are those aligners that everybody has now to,
The Invisalign?
yes, it's just
Yeah.
like that. But the teeth are like with the teeth extended. So it sits right over your
Oh,
regular teeth and then it gives you the fangs. They're gorgeous. They're
that's so
really high
cool.
end. So they weren't
Yeah.
uncomfortable. I mean, except the fact you have teeth coming down and teeth going up and you can't really close your mouth.
Yeah.
Except for that. Nothing major. But no, that was
That's
really
funny.
fun. I was excited. So now maybe that's my wheelhouse is it's the
Is
horror.
horror. It could be horror.
Go
That's
from
really cool.
Oscar winning movie family drama to horror.
Yeah.
I'm open to
Yeah.
anything. I don't say no.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I mean, because I think it's all fun.
yeah.
It's all just fun to get
Unless
to
it's
play around.
incredibly there was some like nudity questions about some roles in a film and I just thought,
Hmm.
well, no, not if it's on Netflix. I can't do that. Not with my kids being as young as they are.
Yeah.
That's the only kind
Yeah.
of no's you're looking at. And anything that's
Yeah.
like really offensive content. But for the most part, I
Right.
audition for everything.
That's really cool. And how fun to get to like have this full life that you've had and then get to go back and pursue your dream now and it's happening. That's really neat. I was just speaking with another guest yesterday and I was telling her, I was like, I'm so proud of you. Like, I know we don't know each other, but I'm proud of you because she went through a divorce. And then after her divorce, she started pursuing her dream and it's happening. And I'm like, what a great role model you're being for your children that they can still have the things that they want and they can rise from the ashes of a
Yes,
divorce because divorce is brutal
exactly.
and then find yourself and make a career and live your passion. That's so cool. And again, for you, I think it's just a really neat thing to demonstrate to your children.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I didn't have any major losses in my life until my first husband passed away. And that was the moment where it was either stop, sit, and don't move forward, or
Yeah.
force yourself to move forward because even though you told your husband, I could never live without you, you have to now. And that was the
Yeah.
decision that I made. And then that kind of carried me through leaving the 9 to 5 business world. Great idea,
Yeah.
but then you find yourself with no weekly income,
Uh-huh.
having to pay for insurance and all of these things, these very practical things. And you think, oh my God, wow, what did I do? So, especially not completely understanding the business we're in. So I just hit the ground running thinking, okay, I need to figure out. I didn't even know where to get auditions. I knew nothing. I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
who casts the movies around here? Like I had
Yeah.
auditions, but I never knew how it worked. I knew somebody messaged me and said, would you come in and read? And then I thought, well, if they don't message you, how do you get called in? And I literally had to
Yeah.
learn everything. My resume was incredibly badly formatted because it was a theater resume. I didn't know I didn't have a monologue in my back pocket or anything because I hadn't acted in
Right.
years. I had nothing. And I had no credits because I was working in, if you're working at a theater days and nights, you can't go do a show, really.
No.
So I had no
No.
credits, no experience, except for one. I was on Brotherhood, and that was it. So I kind of
Yeah.
hit the ground running and started taking classes, asking people questions. I did, oh my God, do you know the Hollywood Winner's Circle? Have you ever seen that?
I have seen
Wendy
that.
Elaine Wright. I will credit her for this, hand to God.
Yeah.
I was desperate to learn. And the best thing about her program, the thing that is unique to her program, is she teaches you who does what and who makes the decisions and how they make the decisions in casting. And then what casting's job is not to give you the role. Casting's job is to find the best people to put up to production, and then who makes the decisions there, and what is expected to be seen on your resume, and what is stupid to put on your resume. And so I did that, and it was absolutely valid information that I needed. Then COVID struck, and everybody was on Clubhouse giving that information away
Yes.
on a daily
Yeah.
basis. And I lived on Clubhouse because there were casting directors, agents, managers, directors, actors, all saying, oh, no, here's how it's done. Here's how I did it. And again, another fantastic thing to come out of that COVID pause is people were very generous with this information.
Yeah.
I could listen for 2 hours and pick up at least 4 good pieces of information. And I figured out what I needed for my materials. I figured out what I needed for this, that, and the other. Kept retooling my self-tape setup so that it looked better and better and better. And figured out how to self-tape and started taking more classes because I feel like I'm not in shape unless I'm training.
Yeah.
It's like anything. It's like a sport. If you don't keep taping, that's why self-tape May is so good. Because you're taping like every day. You're like, oh, I have to make that tape to post today. And so the more you do it, the better you get. And then when an audition comes in, you're not panicking because you just taped 4 monologues or scenes yesterday. And
I think this last self-tape May, I did I can't remember what it is, 16? I can't remember the number of tapes that we're supposed to do.
I can't either. Yeah.
It's basically 4 a week.
Yep.
Is the idea. And so I did all of them, and it was the first time I completed it. And even just from the start of May to the end of May, I improved.
Yeah.
And I was able to memorize faster. I was making decisions about the character faster. I was understanding the whole self-tape world. And I had been self-taping since, 2020, 2021. But that concentrated time really upped my game in a way that, like, doing a tape a week or a couple tapes a month, depending on how the auditions were coming in, and that made a big difference.
And they do come in like that. All of a sudden you have 4 on a Friday night that are due over the weekend, or you don't have anything for 2 weeks, and you have to keep the muscles. You just have to keep the muscle trained. Yeah.
Yeah.
The big thing that I learned the first year I did it was that I was doing way too many takes and I was just worrying over it.
Yes.
I wanted to get the perfect take to send in, but there is no such thing as the perfect take.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing 10 or 12 takes.
Oh, me too.
And
Me too.
because you just want, oh, I didn't get that beat right or this. And I took this really great workshop and the woman said, you know what? Sometimes it's the take you don't nail, but you have a very natural kind of offhand, if you flub a line, but you keep going, sometimes that's your best take because that is really organic. I stumbled over something, but then I want to make my point anyways. It's not rote. It's not overly rehearsed. It's in the moment you stumble, but then you really want to make your point to your scene partner and it ends up being a better scene. So that's what I learned is like 3 or 4. And if you can't get 3 done, then you haven't done your homework enough. Then you're not ready to tape. You need to go back.
I think that's really good advice. And I kind of learned that lesson too, was that if I'm not getting it in 3 or 4 takes, then I didn't prepare myself enough before jumping in. Yeah. And like now my reader, who's usually my husband, is getting annoyed because he wants to get back to his life. and then you start losing it. You start getting in your head after take 3. You start getting in your head. Right. Sometimes I'll do a take 4 just to see, maybe I'll try to throw it away or I'll make a completely different choice on take 4.
That's the 4th take for me is let's take it from not the right choices for the role, but the complete opposite and just send them that too.
And see what happens. Right. Yeah. And,
I always
usually
send 2.
I end up using take 2 or 3. But yeah.
I always, unless they say not to, I always send 2 takes. Always, always.
Oh, that's good.
Always. And if they say, please don't send your best, fine. But if they don't say anything, I take the opportunity. And I mean, there's separate files. They can choose not to watch my second tape. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I always.
Yeah, you send your best as take 1.
Yeah. I just feel like, because they're not going to get to know who you are from your slate, because you're just saying your name and height or whatever. But. Yeah. And then you give them the read and they think, oh, that's her. So then it's fun to kind of just show them the complete opposite. Just say, look, I can adjust before they get you into a callback situation where they do throw adjustments at you. I just throw them at myself early.
I wanted to circle back to your consulting business because I noticed that you kind of started posting about that recently.
It's a new business. I did it for my friends for the longest time, because I enjoy helping. And I realized just suddenly, because here's what not a natural businesswoman I am. I was like, wait a minute. People message me and ask me, and I give them like an hour or 2 hours, and then I outline my opinion on what they need fixed, this and that, and then we hang up, and I never talk to them again because they've got those questions answered. And I thought, oh, this is a legitimate thing. I can actually consult for people and charge a fee.
Yes, yes, it is. These are skills that are definitely able to be monetized.
Absolutely. And I realized that it took me like an astoundingly long time to realize that.
Yeah.
But I think it's also that thing where you have to realize, oh, my opinion is valid, even though I just came to this career 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yeah. My opinion is also based on years of marketing and understanding just how branding works and how I know people hate the word branding, but that's exactly what your headshot is. It's exactly what your clips, your video demo clips are in your website. You are trying to give casting or potential reps the idea of where they can put you as fast as possible. So if you market yourself as, Beyonce in the Wind Machine with the curly hair and lots of lipstick, they look at me and they go, I don't know who she is. Like, who is this person? Yeah. But if I market myself as, somebody scowling at the camera in a denim shirt, like giving a look like what? They know where to put me. And it helps them quickly see if I fit in their roster, if they're a rep, or if I fit in that latest breakdown that they have. It's just a matter of seeing yourself through the casting director's eyes and making it easy for them.
Yeah, and I think you touched on this earlier. The hardest part about being an actor is you don't always see yourself the way that other people see you.
Oh,
And that's exactly what you said. Like you can look at somebody else's materials and look at their essence and get to know them
yeah,
as a person, and you can see if their materials aren't matching up. But
right.
we always have an idea of who we are in our heads.
Well, we
And
want to look
so
pretty. I
yeah.
did for years.
Yeah.
Anytime
Yeah.
you get your picture taken before this is your career, it's your school photo or it's
Uh-huh.
Olin Mills glamour shots for those of us in the day. In the 80s, I worked at Olin Mills for years and always got a glamour shot done. And they are some big-haired, lovely pictures from the 80s because
Yes.
I was a big-haired girl. But you just want to look pretty.
Yeah.
And that's what you think it needs to be. It's a professional headshot. I need to look good.
Hmm.
Not because my mother hates my headshots now. She
Yeah.
dislikes them terribly because
Yeah.
they're not attractive.
Yeah.
And that to me said, oh, great. These are right on point. These are where they need to be
Yeah.
because I'm not booking the attractive roles. I'm
Yeah.
booking the tough lady or the woman who's been, cutting fish for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's where I land.
Yeah.
And, maybe like you look at Melissa McCarthy, she has the glamorous roles now, so maybe
Yeah.
my career at some point I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Because who I am as a person and as a mom is so far from how people see me. But it takes a long time to find out how people see you. It's
Yeah.
hard to figure
Yeah.
that out. It's
I
very
think that
easy for me to look at someone else and help them.
I think it's such an invaluable skill or service to provide to people is to have that. And when you first started posting about the business, my first thought was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense because you did such a good job during the whole award season posting about Coda
Mm,
and sharing like, hey, I'm in this. It's getting awards. Look at all this
thank you.
recognition. You did such a good job of marketing yourself and getting yourself out there. I was like, every time I was like, wow, it's really great. And so when I think it's a really great service, I might have to hit you up
There
for
you
that.
go. And social media, you're not paying for it. It's the most economical way of marketing yourself. And it's
Yeah.
target marketing because it's all about the hashtags and the people you're talking to. If they are reps or fellow actors or casting or whatever, you just make sure your hashtags are on point as far as you're talking to the right people. But if I love doing graphic design, I absolutely love it. I have some clients that it was like one young actress was on one of the NBC procedurals, and it was her
Uh-huh.
first big role in the procedural. And so we did a whole marketing campaign for her, and it's fun. It's so simple to kind of retool your materials towards that show so that everything looks unified, and then you put it out there and people read that as, oh, you are on this show, this is marketing for that show, and
Yeah.
it ends up really lifting your reputation up. And for me it's simple, because I
Yeah.
love to design and I love doing that stuff and copywriting and all of that stuff from the Wayback Machine. It just all comes in handy.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
And
No,
why
and I think,
wouldn't you talk about your wins? I think that it
yeah.
helps. It solidifies your brand. As you just said, that's how you notice me, which is awesome to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even Sam Valentine will talk about, of One Broke Actress, she'll talk
Yep.
about you have to post on your Instagram that whatever it is you do, you're an actor, you're a voiceover person, you're a writer, because people forget that that's what you do. So if you don't
Mhm.
post about it,
Yeah.
people aren't going to reach out to you about it. And I
They'll
think
forget in a
it's
week.
true.
In a
Yeah.
week they'll forget.
Yeah.
I'll post about some great, I used to post about bookings, but now I don't until it airs. I had a
Yeah.
friend who's a casting director give me some fantastic advice because there's a lot of people that are like, I had an audition today. Yay. I had 4
Yeah.
auditions today. I booked it. I can't tell you what it is, but I booked it. And so I was doing that too. And she said, you don't need to do that now. She said, you're at the place where you're just going to be booking. That's a given. So just talk about it when it's airing. And that
Yeah.
will give the signal of where you are in your career. And she was right. And I stopped posting about every little thing. I posted about things that were happening, but kept all of the self-promotion for when it was going to air, or that,
Yeah.
like, for example, I had a whole thing set for Salem's Lot because it was supposed to premiere in September. And
Yeah.
then they pushed it back 6 months. So that's fine. But as soon
Yeah.
as there's an air date or a premiere date, then you just back that campaign out a month and start posting. And
Yeah.
then it's something that's new. And then it's something they'll see in the news as well. And then it'll connect back to you. And that's the hot time. But saying
Yeah.
I booked it now, movies don't come out for a year or two. I have an indie film that I did 2 years ago that still hasn't hit festivals yet. God love him. I love the director. I do. And it's a labor of love. But I'm the lead in it. And it's my first film lead. So
Yeah.
I'm eager for it to be out.
Yeah.
But I finally had to realize, well, because it's a very personal project for him. And
Yeah.
he's taking his time with it, as he should. Whereas I was like, put it on IMDb. It's going to go now, right? No,
Yeah.
it's going
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
years. And
Yeah.
now,
You want
and
the credit.
right, I do. And
Yeah.
my two oldest boys appear in it because I was in New Jersey and it was during COVID. And the two child actors that were scheduled for the next day, they didn't get their COVID tests. So we couldn't
Oh.
have them on set. It was like, this is not a joke. It's a serious thing. And it was
Yeah.
a SAG budget thing. So you had to obey SAG rules. So we had no kids. So we needed 2 kids for scripted scenes the next day, 2 actors.
Yeah.
So I called my agent and said, do you have any kids? Any kids that you've signed in Jersey nearby that are tested? And, long
Yeah.
list. And of course, no. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, my kids are the right age. They've been home. They've been quarantining at home. They haven't left.
Yeah.
And they are 4 or 5 hours away by car. So this is where my husband gets the sainthood. I called him. I said, what do you think about driving the kids to Jersey tomorrow so they can be and it was our last day of filming.
Yeah.
So it had to happen. We had to figure it out. So he said yes. The boys were into it. They drove from Rhode Island to Jersey in the morning. They showed up on set. We got them and filmed all day with them, and they were amazing. Amazing.
Aw.
They were hilarious. And
Proud
the joke
mama.
the joke is that I was their neighbor babysitting them. So I had all these lines about, do you want ice cream? And they're like, oh, my mom won't let us have ice cream. And
Yeah.
I'd say, well, it's a good thing I'm not your mom. And they'd look at me like, what? And then we'd have to take it again because they were like, oh, right. Yeah, it's acting. Okay. It was new. They were very confused that I was their mom playing not their mom. But it's been 2 years. So now these 2 little chubby kids are both teenagers. My 15-year-old is much taller than I am now. He towers over me. And my 13-year-old is my height. So by the time this film comes out, I think they'll be driving their own cars.
Yeah.
And there'll be these 2 tall guys going, yeah, that's me. That's me in the movie, that kid.
Yeah. That's so funny. Well, I wanted to ask you, we're running out of time here. And by the way, this has been so fun. I
Oh,
love talking to you.
I love talking to
are
you.
hilarious.
So fun.
So easy. I wanted to ask you, what advice would you have for someone who's looking to make a career change, or maybe just any piece of advice that you have for people in general
Right.
who are trying to find their footing?
I think the thing that I learned the hard way, and one is incredibly practical, is just be aware of the financial cost of a new career, any career.
Yeah.
You're going to have to invest in yourself in order to pursue it. And especially with the rise of self-taping, you need to buy a backdrop and lights and a microphone. And all of a sudden there's this expenditure And you don't have some money set aside if you can. I did not,
Yeah.
which was not
Mm-hmm.
the wisest move. I just kind of jumped in. And then, so I started slowly improving in all my things. I couldn't invest in myself. But everything that, to be an actor, you need to be able to afford a membership on Actors Access so that
Yeah.
you can submit for roles. You have to, if you want a website, that's expensive. If you all of these things have a cost, and there's a huge cost to pursuing this career as an actor that people don't talk about. You are outlaying time and energy and money constantly,
Yes.
and it's tenfold for every one booking, the time that you put in. So I think, if you can have a buffer before you switch careers, great. If you can't, just don't spend all your money in one place, because
Yeah.
you're going to need it, because the jobs, it's a gig lifestyle. You're working gig to gig. And so you have to have something or a side gig to sustain you while you're pursuing the next gig. And it's
Yeah.
very, I also, this is the thing that I still struggle with, is imposter syndrome, especially as a performer. There's not a week that goes by that I'm like, I suck. And you're just like, well, the reason
Yes.
I'm not booking is because I obviously suck. I
Yeah.
can't act my way out of a paper bag. You kind of get down on yourself because it's, my numbers last year were 120 self-tapes and like 7 bookings. They were good
Yeah.
bookings, but that percentage is like scary. But in an actor's life, it's not. There's going to be... And and I look back and I have 120 fantastic performances that I feel I put on tape and were in the running. And that's all you can do, is just concentrate on the things you can affect and improve, and then just trust that someone's going to see you for the talent you are,
Yeah.
But I kind of had to keep reminding myself that I was deserving and that I should be competing for these roles, that I absolutely have every right to be there. That was the hardest lesson for me, is to just believe in myself.
Yeah, I think that's a lesson we have to learn over and over again, because I definitely have those days where I'm like, oh, I did great, blah, blah, blah. And then the days where I'm just like, nobody likes me. That's why I'm not getting any auditions.
Right.
They don't like my face.
It's totally you. You think, well, it must be me. It's not the fact you look like someone's sister-in-law in the production,
Right.
It's usually nothing within your control that didn't, you didn't get the part because they decided they wanted a redhead or someone 10 years older or anything. So my new mantra is, when I don't get the role, I always think, I was too young and too attractive. Because
that's my motto too, is, I didn't get the role because I was too pretty.
Too pretty.
That's what I just tell myself in my head. I get the role because I was too pretty.
Too good. Would have made everybody else look bad, so they didn't go with me.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm okay with telling myself that and just
I
closing
have
that
to.
book.
Otherwise, it's sad.
Yes, I recommend it. Just, if you didn't book the role, just know you were too pretty.
Too pretty.
You were gonna...
And too young. Too young.
And
That's
too
all.
young. And too young.
Yeah.
Yep. You were going to make somebody else look bad. So
you have to, though, because that
do.
gets you right out of it. And also, keeping your sense of humor about it is mandatory.
Yeah. Yeah.
No other business
definitely.
is like this, where you have to give a work sample before they'll even talk to you. What business is like that? You know?
Yeah.
Well,
it drives
see.
my husband crazy.
Yeah.
He's like, you do all this work.
Yep.
And they don't even give you like $20. They give you nothing.
And they don't talk to you. They ghost you, because that's their job, is to just keep moving. So you do all this work. It takes you a day. You send it in and crickets, and then you go on to the next one. It's kind of it's the strangest thing. Nobody says, oh, well, before I hire you as my pizza maker, make me a pizza and let's see if I like it.
Yeah.
And we're asking everybody to make pizzas, and then we're going to eat them all at the same time and figure out which one works best. There's no other job like this.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
But I love it.
Really
Self-tapes for me are just, I don't do theater anymore. Each self-tape is a little performance that I get to do. And whoever sees it, I consider it like, okay, that's who I've performed for.
that's a great mindset to have. And I try to see it that way too, is that each self-tape, it's an opportunity to perform. It's an opportunity to have fun. And like they say, like, don't think of it as like whether or not you're going to book this job.
Right.
Think of it as you're going to book the room, and then they'll call you in for something that's more right for you.
It's it's a long game, and
Yeah.
making sure you're experiencing the joy of performing in that self-tape.
Yeah.
And that's the part that you kind of forget sometimes, is that
Uh-huh.
I do this as an art. This is something that I am pursuing as a career, but I'm also making art, and there's something incredible about just being able to put it on tape for someone. You got to experience that role for that 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever. And you should enjoy every minute of it. You know,
Yeah.
we're lucky.
Well, and then the last question I want to ask you is, what does making it or being successful mean to you now, maybe versus when you were younger? But yeah, what does making it mean to you?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I feel like I'm at the point right now at my age and where I am in my career that I have not made it. I feel like making it has some sort of security kind of baked into that idea. And I feel like with this career, there's never security. I think you could be the series lead, and then when that show ends, you don't have any security for your next job. There's only a small percentage of people at the top of our field that have that. And so I was thinking, when I was younger, I wanted success. I wanted to be the best I could be and be appreciated for being good. I wanted to be good. And I think as a performer now, I just want to be truthful, as opposed to, I don't want to be a star. I don't want to be, God only knows I don't want to be like hounded by people. I just want to be able to be real and organic and tell the story that needs to be told to the best of my ability. And that's where I'm at as far as, is that making it? I don't know. That's what I feel like is the thing I'm looking for in my career now, is to not be good or the best, but just to do my job to the best of my ability. And that's all I can do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. I think that sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time today. I know it took us a little while to make this happen, but I'm so glad that you stuck it out with me.
I am too. This has been great. It's so great talking to you.
This has been such a great conversation. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode. You can follow Marilyn on Instagram at Marilyn Busch Actress, and you can check out her marketing business for actors, Actors Buzz, at the link in the show notes or through her link tree on her Instagram. Please, if you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you listen. Be sure to follow the show on Instagram at Making It After 40, the number 40, and to catch up on what I'm doing personally, check out my Instagram at Lisa Rodriguez. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.